When I did speak out, there really wasn't many other surfers speaking out alongside of me. And I even think about the perspective of like, everyone expects all these other girls to speak out, but I'm like, where's the guys? Like, men are supposed to be the protectors.
That's the voice of Bethany Hamilton, the famous champion and soul surfer legend, known for her comeback to competitive surfing after losing an arm in a shark attack. She has taken a bold stance against males competing in women's sports, and she has paid the price for that in today's cancel culture. Today, we bring you an exclusive interview with her where she shares all about her faith under fire. From the Family Foundation, I'm your host, Candi Cushman. Well, welcome everyone. Glad to have you with us for Speak Up Virginia. You'll notice that Todd is back with us, my colleague, Todd Gackey. Welcome.
Thanks for having me back.
Well, we have a special treat for you today. We have an exclusive interview to share with you with Bethany Hamilton. I'm sure a lot of you will remember hearing about Bethany. She is the soul surfer legend, a champion surfer that overcame incredible odds after just at the age of 13 being attacked by a shark and losing an arm. But more recently, she has also been a hero with her stance, her bold stance on speaking up against males invading girls' sports because she saw this happening in her sport, surfing, and took a stance on it and paid a price for that in our cancel culture. So I'm excited to be able to bring an interview with her to you today where she talks about that. And Todd, I think it's really timely because it just feels like this issue is not going away. It just keeps coming back up where we have these issues of males invading girls' sports, really taking opportunities away and even endangering women in these areas.
Yeah, so we've seen it with the President Trump's executive order saying that boys are not going to be allowed to compete in female sports. I just read an article just the other day about a male pole vaulter in 2023 competing in the male division, then transfers over and starts competing in the female division, identifying as a female.
Is this high school?
This is in high school in Maine. And this male competitor, this biological male, out pole vaults some of these females by almost a foot. I mean, that's incredible. That is huge. And as someone who has a son that used to pole vault, they are so great athletes. But even between the males and the females, there is a significant difference in the height that they jump.
Yeah, you testified about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I use that as an illustration.
Yeah,
and so it shows that we just can't allow for biological males to compete in the sports, taking away positions, taking away achievements, and then challenging, jeopardizing their privacy and safety.
Well, as I mentioned, Bethany has been speaking into this and has paid the price for this. After she spoke out, she lost a lucrative sponsor and also was just harassed on social media. Just people saying awful things like, I wish the shark had finished the job. I mean, just horrendous things.
Yeah, it's really outrageous, the things that are being said about her. But she has stood her ground. Yeah. She's taken a stand, and she's been bold about this. And we applaud that. We thank her for her willingness to stay in the fire. Yeah.
So without further ado, we're going to bring you this interview, and you will hear her speaking about what it was like to be just a normal mother of four that she is now and being in the midst of this faith under fire. So let's listen in.
I think it's incredible that you were out in that water again just 3 weeks after the shark attack happened. That is just amazing, so unusual, I think. And I'd really like to hear your perspective on what gave you that kind of fortitude? Because I don't know that a lot of people would be out there that quick. And I mean, do you think that's a God-given spiritual perseverance, or that you're naturally competitive, or what? How do you explain that?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't simply just being competitive, but to give you an understanding, I was born and raised in Hawaii, and I grew up on the beach. The ocean was my playground, and I was a super duper talented 13-year-old girl. The summer before, I had finished second in the national championships, 18 and under at 12 years old, or was it 13 years old? And so I was thriving in my sport, but it was more than just a sport. It was my passion, a lifestyle. My whole family surfed, I don't know, there's something about surfing, it just can't be compared to other sports. Like, it was just more than just a sport, you know? And so when I lost my arm, I didn't wake up in the hospital thinking, yeah, I'm gonna get back out there and surf again. I'm like, what else could I do with my life? Like, you know, my mom's trying to problem solve, like, we'll move to the mountains and you can become a snowboarder. Or how about you take on photography? You know, she's just trying to comfort me and come up with a new plan. And then I'm laying in the hospital and a friend comes and visits me. His name is Mike Coots, and he actually learned how to surf with one leg after he'd lost his leg to a shark. Fast forward now, he photographs like great white sharks for fun, and that's like his passion in life. And him and I get in the ocean, you know, quite frequently because we live just down the road from each other. But he's like, hey, I think you can surf with one arm. And so I get this light bulb of inspiration from Mike, and I am dead set on getting out there and trying. And at this point, my fear is not of sharks, but that I won't be able to do it with one arm. So I'm just waiting until the doctor says I can get in the ocean, and I'm healed up enough. And thankfully, you know, my surgeries, some people have an extensive amount of recovery time depending on the limb loss and however everything plays out, but mine was just very clean cut. So I healed up really fast, and I ended up going out a day before the doctor said I was allowed to. And I'm paddling out there, my whole family's there, all my friends. I'm just so stoked. And I stumble. I'm trying to catch waves, trying to figure this out, and I can't figure it out. And my dad's like, here, let me do it. And I'm like, no, Dad, stay away. Like, you can't help me in this moment. So to help you understand how determined I was, I wouldn't let my dad help me. So dads, don't take it personally when your daughter says no. But I loved just the fact that he was there, you know, cheering me on. But he helped me. He said, hey, you're gonna have to do things differently now that you have one arm. So try shift your hand to the middle of the board, whereas when you pop up, normally you have both hands on the side. And I was losing my balance popping up. So he said, hey, shift your hand to the middle of the board. And sure enough, next wave, I pop up and ride it all the way to the beach. And I just have tears of joy and overwhelmed sense of like relief that I could do it. And then from there, you know, being young, it definitely helped being young. And, you know, I knew how to surf. I just had to adapt and do it a different way. And so from there, it was just no turning back. And before you knew it, I'm like, Dad, can I go do the next contest? And I think that was more so just wanting to get back to normal life. I was very competitive, so I started competing and made a final in my first event and went on to make a final in the nationals that following summer. And 2 years later, I won a national title, all with one arm. So that was pretty cool. And then that kind of...
Yes.
And so that kind of eventually projected me into a professional career and just competing and pushing female surfing and just doing my unique Bethany thing.
Well, it's just so clear that you have this deep faith, obviously, that infuses everything you do, just from the little things day in and day out. Also, including the bigger things like this huge movie about your life, Soul Surfer, that reaches, you know, millions and millions of people. And I really just loved how you were able to have a say into that movie. I didn't realize you were able to really have that much say, but I read what the director said, that, you know, Bethany was about getting two things right: Jesus and surfing. The surfing had to be legit, right? Tell us how you spoke into that.
Yeah, so we knew making this film was going to be really rough because we threw out the first 3 scripts they gave us. And after sitting on the couch with these script writers thinking like, how could you not get it wrong? Like, we just spent so much time, you know, giving all the details of this very dramatic story. And then they would bust out a script that had like just so many things off and wrong and extra added drama when we had so much drama as it was. And Yeah, but it was really cool to see God's hand in that time and just how he used the different members of my family. It was a family affair. We were all involved in making this movie, and we all put our foot down at times, and, we just worked hard to keep our story as authentic and true to just the heart of our story. And then too, a lot of Hollywood often really messes up surfing too. So we wanted the surfing to be awesome and authentic. And so, yeah, it was a fun journey though. I got to do some of my own stunt surfing. We worked on the script as a family. One of my brothers was a camera assistant. My other brother and sister-in-law were executive producers. And in the end, we were really happy with how the film turned out and felt honored to share it. And a funny little side story is my family and I were in Indonesia 2 weeks ago on a vacation, surf trip, and we had to take a fast ferry to get to a remote island that we were staying on. And the only people on this boat are a few Indonesians and then a bunch of surfers. So we get on the boat though, and we're in the middle of nowhere. And I'm kind of concerned because they have some weird movies playing on the boat. And so I'm going up to I'm the assertive mom going up to say, hey, can we change the movie? Because I have little children here. And I end up in the captain's chair room, and they're pointing at me, and then they're pointing down at something in a different language. And long story short, they had Soul Surfer as one of the options. I'm like, no, we are not playing Soul Surfer. But they're all stoked and eyebrows lifted, and they're just like, is that you? They're putting it all together, and I'm like, yeah, that's me, but let's play that other movie. So it's really but I just think it's so cool. My story's been shared in the depths of South America and Indonesia and Thailand and all over the world. And yeah, it's just amazing to see how God can take my story and turn it into something so beautiful. And I believe he can do the same with all of our stories. And maybe it's not in a Hollywood sense, but maybe it's in the young people's lives around you and sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge, empowering our young people by sharing your life. And I'm just honored that God has used my story in the way that he has. And yeah, making Soul Surfer was pretty awesome. And then fast forward, we made my documentary as well, Bethany, from childhood to motherhood, and just the more authentic version of me. And that was a really fun project because I basically got to surf my tail off and push female surfing and just push myself and accomplish some of my goals. So.
That was that Unstoppable one?
Yeah, Unstoppable, yeah. Bethany Hamilton. So I think it's on YouTube maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, fast forward over 20 years now, and here you are now, and it's just awesome to see how God is using you mightily to speak through your faith into the culture in a different way. And you have spoken into this controversy with this whole thing with males competing in female sports. And I guess this came to your attention because the World Surf League started going down this track. Tell us how that got on your radar.
So I was getting whispers of it, and I mentioned it to a couple of my friends. I said, hey, I think they're gonna start allowing males in the female division. My friends were like, no, that's not gonna happen. And I was on Oahu prepping to compete at Pipeline, and the morning of the first day of the event, we get an email in the inbox saying, here's the new rules. And it was allowing males to compete in the female division. And I ended up texting a few of my friends and said, did you check your emails today? Because it's not looking pretty. And at this point, I hadn't really talked out via social media or publicly against males and female sports, though I was very against it. And it basically, like, I woke up to that email box and I was like, now's my time to shine. And so I kind of like geared up to prepare a statement and just put it out publicly saying like, I don't support this, but I more put it in a way of like asking questions. Like, does this make sense? Like, is it fair to simply, calculate some testosterone levels that can be artificially produced? And tried to do it in the most gracious way I could. And yeah, it was just crazy. I mean, I personally look at that time and think the overwhelming support was pretty amazing. Like, I would say there was more support than negativity, though the negativity can be very loud and obnoxious and aggressive. But people were coming out of the woodworks, like, thanking me for speaking up. And I just, I wanted to stand up for the next generation of female surfers and cheer them on to have fair game. And so, yeah, currently everything is remaining the same. Nothing has changed. And my hunch is that the World Surf League is just following the Olympic bylaws or standards. And yeah, it wasn't fun, but even a few of you are like, thank you for sacrificing. But it really doesn't feel like a sacrifice to me. While I did have a conversation going on with Ford at the time, in my mind now, I'm like, well, I don't really want to promote someone like Ford if they're not supporting females to compete against females, they're pushing out other agendas. And so it kind of became this time to draw the line in the sand of like not promoting companies that support this. A lot of these companies have leaders who haven't even really thought much about this subject. I think of some of the conversations I've had. They're literally sent to a class, told what to think and do, and then they go and do it. These aren't people that care about, the younger generation. They're just being told what to do. And I'm talking, is this making sense? I'm like, yeah. Anyway, like, I had a conversation with the CEO, and she told me that's what she did. She went to a class, got told what to say and do, and now she's doing that. And she's not even having any sort of pushback. And I'm like, well, is that what's best for females in sport? Anyway.
Yeah, that makes total sense. We've been seeing this kind of politically correctness seeping into the corporations, and now it's getting into the sports world. But I'd love for you to talk to us about the fairness issue, because you have a really up-close view of this. I mean, people need to understand that you've competed in the World Surf League for 15 years, top-ranked surfer, and at one point you beat out a 6-year world champion. So I think you know what this could do to sports if this trend continues. And also, with having your first little girl, I'd like to hear how that's impacting your thinking on this.
Yeah, I was pregnant when I was first speaking out, specifically in the surfing industry, and I didn't know if I was having a boy or girl, but I was like, man, if I'm having a daughter, then I'm going all out. And so then, little did I know, little Leia is coming along, and so she seems pretty athletic at her age. I'm like, whoa, like she's got some athletic genes going here, so we'll see where she goes with those. But I mean, I kind of forget your question.
I mean, it's more, well, let's put it this way. It's more than just a hormone because they were saying,
totally.
Testosterone measurement or whatever.
Yeah.
If you could speak to why it matters, more than just measuring someone's hormones when men invade women's sports.
I think everyone here can agree. You just look at the other sports and what's starting to happen and how destructive it is towards female sports. It's obvious. And with surfing, the strength difference, the bone structure, it's very apparent. And while there's some super incredibly talented 16, 17, 18-year-olds right now that are arguably pushing even against males, like there's just such a big difference in the strength and the structure. And even I think of like big wave surfing, for example, the paddling strength is vastly different. And you know, being in a fairly male-dominated sport, when I'm out there surfing, like, it's obvious. And so I don't really feel like I need to argue for it because it is so obvious that it's so incredibly unfair and should not be that way, you know? I think one thing I've been pondering lately that felt pretty discouraging is when I did speak out, there really wasn't many other surfers speaking out alongside of me. And I even think about the perspective of like, everyone expects all these other girls to speak out, but I'm like, where's the guys? Like, men are supposed to be the protectors of men are supposed to be the protectors of the woman, and we didn't even have any males speaking out on our behalf, you know, maybe a couple chirps here and there, but the World Surf League had all the athletes sign no disparaging agreement at the beginning of the year, so a lot of the athletes were going to have to basically give up their career. They would get fined, they'd be removed from the World Surf League. And so a lot of the athletes went silent, though they might have DM'd me or texted me saying thank you. But there was an incredible amount of athletes and world-class elite level surfers that didn't say a thing. You know, none of the former world champs who have nothing to lose except for maybe like their, you know, emotions being pulled at. You know, none of them are speaking out. It's crazy to me. And I did a Brave Books event with Riley, and hearing her talk, she said, it felt so lonely. And I felt that deeply when I heard her say that. I was like, yeah, that's about right. It was pretty lonely. And so I think like empowering our young people to be brave is also really important, and to stand for truth. That's why I'm really proud to be partnered with Brave Books over the last couple years, and they're, you know, doing their own beautiful work by writing books to help our children, you know, live a life of values and to seek the truth and to speak the truth. And I absolutely love reading these books to my boys. There's two books in particular, Son of Truth, and it's all about this one boy, Tiger, being challenged to tell the truth, and he has this moment where he's wavering, but then he goes and tells the truth, and it's just so much better. And then there's this other one where the little brother saves his little sister from the poisonous flower that she stepped on, and he has to climb a mountain and go and get the remedy for her, and it's just so beautiful. But
well, I think speaking of that, the Brave Books, yeah. I do want to bring up this one event that you did, because you know you're such an optimist, and you make it sound wonderful, but there has been a cost to you. And, you know, I want to talk a little bit about that. And I want to talk about something that happened at a Brave Book event. But first, let me back up a little bit and just mention, for those of you that may not know, the sponsor Rip Curl was with Bethany from the very beginning when she was a young girl. And, you know, when they stayed with you through the shark attack. And that was a really great relationship. But despite all of that, when Bethany started speaking out about protecting girls' sports, they dropped her. And you mentioned Ford as well. And, you know, and then there's just been, as you might say, I've heard you say, gnarly reaction on social media. Just really some nasty stuff. And that's where I want to bring in this Brave Books thing. So you were at this Innocent Family Library event. It's one of the Kirk Cameron Brave Book. You're reading your children's book, Surfing Past Fear. You didn't even mention yours. Yeah.
Past Fear book. So I wrote a book with them, and my version is Surfing Past Fear. So I encourage encouraging our children to overcome their fears. And but yeah, Riley and I did a Brave Books library reading, and anyway.
Yeah, so there was a protester there. There were protesters there that showed up, but one was especially outrageous, and I think we're going to show a photo of that. But this protester had a trans flag wrapped around them and carrying a stuffed shark. What in the world is going through your mind when these protesters do this kind of crazy thing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I actually don't take offense at all, and if anything, I have compassion on that individual, because I'm like, for them to be like that, you know they're coming from a dark place, and to go as far as like, you know, repainting awful pictures, I just kind of have a heart for them and a feeling of like they need love in their life, and they are coming from a different version, a different place of like maybe anger or hurt, or, you know, maybe they're a bit lost. And so I don't feel angry at them. Like for a while I had a shark club. So there was like a club of people who were like fans of the shark. So on like TikTok, and they would just kind of comment like, we're on Team Shark, like, wish you died, you know, hope another shark comes your way,
Wow.
Sort of a thing. And to me, it's less, you know, it doesn't really hurt me. I'm more of just like, whoa, like I wouldn't wish that on anyone, no matter how awful they were. And so recognizing that this is like the state of much of society, like they're full of so much darkness that they go to that extreme. And you know that they're not in a healthy place when they're doing things like that. And they, you know, like, I don't know, like go and do something better with your life. And so...
Well, if there was one silver lining in all these crazy, you know, social media attacks, I'm going to go back to Rip Curl for a minute. It's what happened with that. Because shortly after they dropped you, then they did this promotion on social media for women's sports. This is for women's sports promotion. They put a...
Women's bikinis.
Yeah.
You should say women's bikinis.
I'll let Bethany say that. Women's bikini. Is that what they were promoting? I don't remember exactly. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that is weird. So they're promoting women's bikinis. And they feature a biological male, you know, who identifies as a woman. And this person had competed in, you know, male competitions, and this is who Rip Curl's promoting, and that was just a bridge too far for many women apparently, because there was a huge outcry. There was a boycott. This was literally like the Bud Light moment of the surf world. So it was great to see that outcry. I'm glad people are waking up, but it was just, felt like more of a flash in the pan moment. Yeah, we got a picture up there of what was going on. But it felt like the outcry is more of a flash in the pan kind of thing, and we really need persistence in speaking out over the long haul on this. And so, Bethany, I kind of wanted to come full circle here with the theme we have tonight, unwavering faith, because that is inspired by your life. Will you speak to us why people in this room and the young people listening should have and can have unwavering courage, faith and courage, and speaking truth to this culture, even when it hurts, even when there is a cost?
Yeah. I just think that when we have our values aligned with God, like only good will truly come in the long run. And so looking at the climate of the world and the way the culture is going, you know, a lot of it's rooted in Marxism. I've been meaning to dive in and research that a bit more, but just knowing that there are works of darkness and evil out there, but at the end of the day, the Lord wins, and so just doing what He says to do and proclaiming truth on every level and fighting for what is right, starting in your own home with your spouse and your children, and then in your workplace, and then culturally in the government, and in any way that we can or feel called and led to, wherever your place is to be at work. We all have vocations in life, and to love and serve our neighbor the best we can. And to me, telling a young girl to not amputate perfectly good body parts is to love her and to call her back to truth. And so, it's just pretty crazy that, this is even a conversation, but that God is there and He is with us and He will never leave us nor forsake us. And sometimes we have to do scary or junk things, and sometimes there's weirdos that do weird things back towards you, but it's going to be okay at the end of the day. And I've gotten pretty good at just not looking. Sometimes my husband will look, but I've just gotten good at not looking when, that sort of thing goes, because I want my mental energy to go towards my children and bringing good to the world and being an encouragement and light. And so it's an honor to do what I do, and I definitely don't regret at all, speaking out, and plan to continue that. My husband and I are working towards launching our podcast. So with social media, I feel like it's just such a little snippet. And I think with the podcast, it'll be really fun because you can have more of a conversation that, can cover subjects with more of a healthy approach versus social media. It's so short and, quick to judge, quick to react, quick to get emotionally bent over things. And so I'm excited to just speak out more through our podcast and the different work that we look forward to doing, and teamworking it as husband and wife, and finding voices that we really want to get out there and project more through our own platform. And so, good to come.
Well, I think it would be great tonight to wrap up with an encouragement for our young people, because we have a room full of young people watching right now, and you're able to go back there and take some question and answers earlier this evening. And especially for our girls, can you just give them a word of encouragement on what it means and how they can live out their convictions in this confusing world on this issue that we're talking about and other biblically centered issues, and also just how they can, be an Esther of this time?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would just say that to get out there, be courageous, be your beautiful self, know that God has given you talents and gifts for a reason, and to let those, shine and flow. And just to be, if you feel scared or if you feel like it's too much for you, to find someone to speak into your life, to mentor you, to cheer you on in a good direction, or to help you, find your strength so that you can better shine in the gifts that you have, and to just have fun and to know that, yes, there's serious and awful issues, but there's also so much fun to be had. And God gives us the life that we have, and to just make the most of it and be willing to try and try again and keep showing up. And that's kind of how I have approached it, is just being willing to keep trying and keep showing up. And sometimes there's some wipeouts along the way, but then there's also some awesome rides to be had as well. And so, cheering all you young ones on, and you young men, to know that you are our protectors, and we're cheering you guys to lead well and be movers and shakers out there.
Well, thank you for your yes. Bethany, thank you for just being steadfast in your faith, having that unwavering faith. You are a hero to so many people in this room, including myself.
So, Candi, what I found to be one of the most powerful parts of your interview with Bethany was when she responded during that discussion about fathers and the role of fathers and the importance that they have in protecting their young daughters and speaking out, because sometimes their voice gets hidden through this whole conversation. and they're there to be the protectors. And I thought what she had to say was just incredible.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments also, when she just said to the audience, where are the men in this? And really challenged the men. Let's step it up on this issue.
Yeah.
I know that did resonate with you as a dad. And, we saw fathers speaking up at our Mama Bear Day event also.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah. And certainly we've been in the General Assembly. We've been testifying on that during committees. But it is it's motivating, and it encourages me, that they do want to hear from a father. They do want to hear our voice. You know? We do want to protect our young daughters.
Well, speaking of your efforts to protect women, tell us what's going on with your efforts to kind of resuscitate this Save Girls Sports measure that the Democrats blocked in the Virginia State Legislature. The House didn't even give it a hearing.
Yeah, that's right. There were two bills, one to protect female sports. The Senate gave it somewhat of a hearing, but the House didn't even give it one. And we know that the executive order by President Trump is just a temporary fix. What we need is legislation. We need something in the Virginia Code. So what we're doing is we're urging the governor to find legislation that he can amend to incorporate protecting female sports language into that bill to make sure that we're protecting their ability to compete for fairness, to make sure their bodily privacy and safety are protected. And so we're going to be urging him to find legislation. We're looking to, in addition to that, we're also going to be urging him to find legislation to amend to incorporate making sure parents have a right to know when their child is social transitioning at school. We tell them about everything. When there's a fight or bullying or something, this rises to that level as well. And then as well, we're going to urge him to find ways to amend legislation to make sure parents are not criminalized for lovingly and kindly affirming their child's biological reality.
Yeah, because there's some people that want to criminalize you as a parent if you don't fully embrace this transgender agenda. If your child has been seduced into this online or at school and you're, not pushing them down this path with everyone else, some people want to criminalize you as a parent.
That's right.
So, all right, just to kind of put this in context, so the General Assembly session has ended. We talked about that in the last episode. Now all these bills are on the governor's desk, and your team is helping to find ways where some of these measures for protecting girls and parents can still be added. So if you want to be part of that, go to our website, familyfoundation.org, and look for the Governor's Action.
Governor's Action page, yes.
Okay.
And we have on there bills that he can sign, amend, or veto. And we have links to where they can click on a bill, and they can submit an action to the governor requesting that he takes a certain particular action.
All right. So go to the Governor's Action page, familyfoundation.org. Thanks for joining us. We hope this was encouraging to you and equipped you on these issues. If you'd like to share it with others, make sure you share our Speak Up Virginia playlist on YouTube. If you want to help the word get out to more people, make sure to give us that 5-star review on Apple and Spotify and audio-only platforms like that. And remember, we are stronger when we speak together. We'll see you next time.